Nick, since you're a huge fan of this, love to talk about it. What is going on in season 3 of Warrior?
Okay, so season 3 of Warrior takes place several months after the race riots in Chinatown that culminated in the season 2 finale. Mai Ling is using her government connections to gain more power throughout Chinatown. And meanwhile, Assam and the Hopway have to find new ways to survive in this dog-eat-dog world that is 1800s America. Also, we also have Dylan Leary, who is played by Dean Jagger, who he's trying to, further his own racist agenda and trying to get these filthy little Chinese out of his country, trying to join the city council of San Francisco and slowly learning how to play the political game. You have the law furthering their pursuit of Lee, who is played by Tom Weston Jones, and him forming new alliances with the Secret Service in order to clear his record. What can I say about the show other than it is the best show that you are probably not watching? It has some of the best action set pieces on television, and we almost didn't get this third season of the show because it was canceled by Cinemax on April of 2014 after it was dropped on HBO Max. There was such this massive, huge fan campaign that they announced its renewal basically in June of 2021, I believe. And now 2 years later, we have the third season wrapped. And I have a question. So I'm a big fan of the show. I could probably go on all day about it, but let's hear from a voice that you haven't heard from. So Jamarco, Brandon, what did you guys think of the show overall? And what were some of your impressions of this third season?
Well, I mean, Nick put it together so well, but yeah, I was on the same train. I heard about this show super late. I was just seeing the rumblings on Twitter. And, I've known Andrew Koji from Bullet Train and G.I. Joe movie we will not speak of. But I was really impressed with what I saw. And I think it was Nick. I think everybody was in the chat was like, dude, you got to get on board. You got to get on it. So I ran through the first 2 seasons like crack. And in this season, it's beautiful. It should be talked about in the same breath that certain other prestige shows are talked about. It may not be on the same level of Succession or Barry.
I wholeheartedly believe that this show deserves to be in the same conversation of stuff like Barry, stuff like Succession, stuff like The White Lotus. And I kind of wish that this was the one that dropped on HBO proper after those shows ended instead of The Idol.
Oh, God.
Imagine that. What if?
That was such a visceral reaction. No, but yeah, it was just, I've been blown away with every episode with the emotional depth of these characters, the performances from Andrew Koji, Jason Tobin as Young June, Hong Lee as Chow. Help me out with the names. Mai Ling, I forgot her name.
Oh, Diane Doan as Mai Ling. You also have your token white cast in a show like this. You have Dean Jagger as Dylan Leary. You have Kieran Brew as Big Bill O'Hara. You have Tom Weston Jones as Richard Henry Lee. And you have Langley Kirkwood, who I guess is the closest thing this show has to a main villain, as Walter Buckley, the mayor of San Francisco, who is secretly a Confederate soldier.
Brandon, what are some of your thoughts?
Oh yeah, no, I am in love with this show. Like, as someone who loves martial arts movies and like any kind of action like TV shows, this is like right up my alley. And I remember hearing about it like even before like Nick like started like applying pressure, like
what he did.
Like during like I guess when it was on season 1, my dad would always say like, "You watching this Bruce Lee show?" This Bruce Lee show was like, what's it called? And he could never remember the name. And so like, I was just kind of like lost with it for a minute. But then like after a while, I finally like binged season 1, season 2, and it's a perfect kind of binge kind of show. Like it's fun to watch these characters like grow and like fight each other, of course, but like being like such a big fan of the movies like The Raid, and especially Joe Taslim, who's also in this.
Absolutely.
Like I was like just kind of magnetized to this show, and I am so happy like that we got season 3, but I'm also upset that season 3 is over already. Like I want more of this show. But yeah, it's so great. The cast is one of my favorite casts on TV right now, and I totally agree. Like this should be mentioned like with all the other HBO shows that came out this year. Like it's one of my favorites for sure.
Interesting. Well, I would say with Warrior season 3, I'd have to go back and probably look at a lot of the other seasons. But I don't know. I find this season kind of one of the weaker seasons here.
Okay.
And I really wasn't into it as much. I think part of that reason is there's a lot of characters here.
Okay.
And a lot of storylines that I'm just not as interested in as maybe some other storylines. Like the whole storyline with Lee, who, he's on the run and he's in this, majority black town, and he's in this interracial relationship with this black bartender. I really didn't really care about that as much. I thought that storyline and him trying to really gain his name back and the joy, I was like, I don't really care about that as much. A lot of the,
Yeah, I was kind of there with you too, but then he gets an entire episode where it's mostly just him and Wang Chao, who's played by Hoon Lee, who's also another frequent Jonathan Tropper collaborator. And I think it might have been either episode 6 or 7 where you get the two of them in the room and you explore their dynamic, and you get to explore more of kind of the world where Lee grew up in and why that loss in his personal life, because he previously had another black woman that he was in love with, and she was murdered by his cousins, and that's why he's on the run.
Yeah, so I know I find some of that stuff. That was a decent episode, but I just find some of his storyline I was just like not so interesting.
I get it.
Then there's the storyline with the police. There's a new police chief that shows up, and his name is I forget, what's that character's name again? The new police chief.
Police Chief Atwood.
Atwood, who shows up, and he's the real ball busting, even more so than any of the other police that we've seen so far. Dude that is going to incredibly crack down on Chinatown and go in there and put in law and order.
He's played by Niels Classen, and he is absolutely despicable. He's essentially the worst case scenario of what a cop like Bill could have turned out to be.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff with him there. Which I found pretty decent. I mean, it was a good, antagonist, I think, for the show there for a bit in this season, along with the Buckley character who we're going to get into in a minute there. And he was decent. I thought he was fine. It was a little cartoonish the way he was playing it sometimes. And a lot of the resolutions for a lot of situations in this show will just mainly end with, okay, people are just gonna beat the shit out of each other. I mean, that's kind of like it's an action show.
You know what show you're watching,
right? Yeah. I mean, really no real. I mean, you could just. I mean, I get that it's way back in the past, and you can basically kill a guy and get away with it pretty easy. There's no, I mean, I don't even think forensic. Was in video,
that's
so I
far
get
off.
that.
Yeah, they're just like, man, this guy got fucked up.
Yeah, that's not for like another 200 years.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, this guy's face sucks. Get him out of here.
It's like that's like a joke in this season's finale. It's like Bill is with his other cops. They're looking at a crime scene, and it's like, wait, didn't that guy used to be on the force for a couple years ago? And this guy has been curb stomped. He has no face.
Yeah, there's a scene with Leary near the finale that is without doubt.
It's like the penultimate fight, penultimate episode.
One of the most brutal fights I've seen anywhere. If you've seen it, there's a finale. There's a finishing move. You seen American History X?
Yeah.
Oh,
teeth.
Yeah, that.
And And then to get into, you mentioned Leary, who we've seen, who's been kind of he's been kind of bumped down a little bit as an antagonist. There really isn't much interaction with him in Chinatown or the Hopway or Andrew Koji's character, some that we've seen before. He's kind of really trying to move in more of the political scene, trying to get things done for his people, the Irish people, trying to help them get jobs, trying to navigate in this difficult political world with all these different snakes. I did find that kind of slightly interesting about him learning about all those kind of different things there. I did find that they're kind of interesting. I will say some of the stuff with the woman who leads who helped the women who were from the brothel. Maylene.
Atoy
and Nelly?
Atoy and Nelly. Those are the two characters that were like liberating Chinese
Atoy and Nelly,
prostitutes.
Yeah, so their storyline was pretty good, and then something devastating happens to them here, and then the farm that they're on. And I do like her whole country stuff with her, and then her conversations with Assem were really good. Anytime they were together in the scene together, I almost thought that he had better chemistry with her than any woman I've ever seen him with in the show. I was like,
I agree.
Hey, first off, Andrew Koji is a beautiful man. He has chemistry with just about everybody.
And to be fair, look at Olivia Chang, guys. Look at her.
Also, yes. And for as kind of visceral as the content of the show is, it was formerly a Cinemax show, which was basically the channel for sex and violence. And people kind of often overlook the real artistic qualities of stuff that aired on there. And some of these performances, especially from Koji and from Olivia Chang as Atoy, it's some of the best work I've ever seen them do on this show.
For sure.
Yeah, I think anytime when they were sitting down, when they were talking about like each other's problems, and he's voicing, kind of coming to her for counsel, I thought that was all good. I always loved scenes with them together. And then so you have that storyline there, and then also one of the main storylines we see is with Andrew Koji and the Hopway. You see kind of things are even get more strained between him and the leader of the Hopway. Who's I forget? I'm blanking.
Young June, who's played by Jason Tobin.
You see kind of things are strained there because there's some things that are more happening in the season. He has to kind of form an uneasy alliance with his sister Mei Ling, who Mei Ling's storyline. I always really like stuff with her because it's almost like she's playing Game of Thrones almost. She's really you always really
she's Khaleesi.
She's definitely
she is. Yeah, she is this show's version of a character like Khaleesi. And something I really liked about Mei Ling is because I think this show, it really kind of takes a downward look at unchecked ambition. It's like whenever characters get too ambitious for their own good or just overplay their hand, this show is quick to punish them for it.
Yeah.
Don't get too cocky.
We've seen her win a lot. In this season, we really see her take some big L's. This season, Mei Ling does. But yeah, I like kind of a lot of that stuff. So there's only a couple or a few storylines I like in this show that I'm like, okay, I'm really invested in. I just think they kind of overdo it with all these kind of other different storylines. What do you guys think about that? All these different storylines in Warrior. What do you kind of think?
I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Marco.
Well, yeah, I can see where Josh can get a little like frustrated with certain storylines because there are certain episodes where I'm just like, oh man, I wish we had more, time with the Hopway or was hanging out with Lee today. I understand that, but I feel like with all these shows, especially this show, they are all leading to some big collision. Because like every time I watch an episode, I'm always thinking about, okay, so this is going to affect that. So when he finds out about this or she finds out about this, this is going to just cause a whole mess of trouble. So it's for me, I get a kick out of the double crossing and the intrigue and keeping secrets. It's like everybody's playing real close to the chest and nobody wants to get hurt, but everybody knows that when the time comes, we have to do something. We have to either we're gonna stick together, or we're gonna fall apart. So I know I love how it's all leading to something. And I think season 2, no spoilers, did a great example of that, of like building something up and then the powder keg exploding.
And yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Jamarco. While I think this season is a little bit messier than season 1 or season 2, where you had all of these different storylines converging, I feel like if emotional payoff works really well, you can kind of overlook a lot of that, because by the end of this season, where you get the conflict between both Tongs, you get the conflict between between Assam and Young June, and that finally
Mhm.
blows to a head.
Mhm.
That was some heartbreaking stuff on my favorite action show of the last couple of years, and the entire time I'm begging, boys, please stop fighting.
Yeah, I'm just screaming at the screen, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree with Nick and Jamarco. Like, I think like in the first two seasons, like I think it was done better, like all the storylines converging and stuff like that. But with this third season, I found myself more emotionally invested in like each character storyline, even if I wasn't interested in them as much. Like with Bill, for example, like he's not my favorite character, but like I was like super invested in his arc of like, you know, how he was dealing with like the new chief and like trying to get his wife and family back as well. Even with like Lee, like I liked him kind of being in the middle, like always like how he wasn't the worst kind of cop. He's still trying to do cop work even when he wasn't a cop. So I think this season, while it might not be as strong, like connecting all the stories, I think it's super strong, like emotionally, like that this finale or like even like the last 3 episodes, really like the payoff that happens with these characters and like how like they are the relationships, I think were like super like satisfying, like especially with Mai Ling and Assam and Mai Ling and like her boy Joe Taslim, what's his name?
Oh yeah, Lee Young.
Lee
Yeah,
Young,
Lee Young.
yes.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Like I think this might be like the strongest season for like these characters emotionally, and I was like I was fine with it, like if things got a little bit messy story wise.
And you're getting great performances out of actors who, especially in someone like Joe Taslim, who came over from Indonesia, from stuff like The Raid, who English is not his first language. He's still learning it. And even if he was a little bit rougher in earlier seasons, but he is absolutely incredible in this third season.
Absolutely.
Like there's a fight scene that he has, I think it's in episode 7, where it's between him and a character who is like one of his best friends, and that is so emotionally charged. And that's when and we'll probably talk about this when we get to Old Boy, when action really feels more visceral is when there's like an emotional stake to it. And that's something that that Hoon Lee, who plays Chow on the show and is also one of the writers, and Dustin Nguyen have spoken about the process of writing the show and about like how to write action, is like every action set piece needs to have a story beat along with it. It's like every action needs to advance a character's arc, and if you don't have that, it's just boring. It's just action for the sake of action, and that has never been a problem on this show, and it is not even in here.
Yeah.
You know, I totally agree, because like I think I told you guys like in the chat, like season 2 and season 1, like their finales are like kind of like big scale, like it's like a lot of group fights, not a lot of one-on-ones.
Right.
So I kind of like the parallel with season 3, like you get a lot more.
Yeah, season 1, 2, it's our characters against the world, or it's Assam versus Leary. It's these two moving freight trains, and here in this third season, it's all much more personal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you have going on. With this season, you see Assam, fall in love. They one of the main things kind of going on this season is they figure out how to print fake money. That's what they're doing. That's kind of one of their new big scams got going on, and they get somebody who comes in as a print. That someone's going to help them do the printing, and he ends up kind of forming a relationship with this woman. What was her name?
Her character's name is Yan Mi, and she's played by Chelsea Muirhead.
Okay. I thought, did you think that relationship kind of worked? Do you think it was too fast? Do you think they built it up kind of nice? Do you think the ending was a little with that relationship too cheesy with the way they go? What's some of your thoughts on that?
Me, not at all. Especially when we got to see the two of them talk and have conversations with each other. You kind of see a lot of really great chemistry, and especially because her character really looks up to Assam because she saw him during the riot in season 2, and kind of peeling back his layers. And it's because we've seen Assam be intimate with other characters on the show. We've seen him be intimate with Atoy, with other characters throughout the show, especially Joanna Vanderham, who played Penelope Bake in the first 2 seasons.
Yes.
And we haven't really seen him be this vulnerable around another character before.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, I feel like Assam, like, of course, like we said, Andrew Koji, that dude just spews chemistry. But
yeah, the guy just oozes Riz.
Man, look at him.
Like in the past few seasons, like especially the second season, I felt like his relationship with like kind of like the Spanish kind of like
The
fight club leader.
Yeah.
Like I felt like that one was kind of like not as emotionally connected as like his ones with Penny or the one with Yeonmi. Like I feel like this one was a lot more natural than his past relationships. And like me personally, I was afraid for her safety like the whole time because he does not have good luck when it comes to the ladies' fates. All those women aren't doing so well.
No.
So I was kind of happy with how it ended for them, and it even if it felt like a little cliche, I think like I'm glad she got her like happy ending.
Yeah. And I agree, yeah, because as the gentleman have said, yeah, Asan does not have the luck with the ladies. And Yeonmi was kind of like the first woman he met that kind of like outsmarted him in a sense, or was kind of like up on his level. And I think that's what made him break down. It's like, okay, you see something in me that I don't. So that relationship to me, those are some of my favorite things about it. Because like we've never seen Asan this vulnerable. We've never seen him willing to just fold immediately. Like he's making drastic decisions all in the name of love, and his homies and even like on both sides like, are you sure? Are you sure you can trust this woman? So I think for that, I think it was a new take on, because there's a lot of romance and a lot of sex on this show. And this was kind of like one of the first relationships that we saw where it meant something, you know, because there's not a lot of long last. There's a few of them. But
there's a couple like long-standing relationships that we see on the show. Like we have Mai Ling, and we have Lee Young, we have Bill O'Hara and his wife that have a long relationship. And in this season, we get introduced to Lee and Abigail, the black bartender that he's formed a relationship with.
Speaking of relationships, you have one with Hong there, who they say he's gay in it. He starts a relationship with a what would you say, like a cabaret singer?
A cabaret singer who's named Marcel. He's played by Telly Long.
Which I'm kind of like in this. I don't know. It's like, wow, this kind of day and age is kind of super accepting, right? I mean, in a gang of progressive. It's like,
that's really progressive for the 1800s.
Yeah, everybody was like, freaky, man.
Like they're not.
And I mean that was kind of the one subplot I wasn't too crazy about, but it was mostly because we didn't get to really spend much time with Hong as a character.
I agree.
Hong is kind of like the new puppy dog bro of the Hopway in season 2. He's like the ride or dies with Young Jun and Sam. And it was nice to see them try to branch out with him as a character and see him have relationships outside of them. I just think that those were kind of underdeveloped.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I hope when we get season 4, I'm manifesting that, we get to see a lot more Hong, because there's a scene where he is triggered, by a policeman. We never really, when we see Hong, he's always smiling, always cracking jokes, happy, kicking people's ass with his cool little necklace. So we never really got. That was kind of like the little sliver of emotional depth, and I was like, I wish you guys would dug a little deeper in that scene, because I want to know who this guy is.
And having a scene like that, it only kind of deepens the bond he feels with Assam and Young Jun, which would only make the finale all more heartbreaking.
I totally agree with both of you, because I love Hong, and one of my favorite aspects of him is how he's always trying to be like the voice of reason, like while Young Jun is struggling with like being the head of the Tong, like this season, he's always like, hey boss, maybe we should, take it easy, or, listen to him, or do something like that. So I always like that character aspect of him, but I also wanted to see more of his relationship, because I really enjoyed that scene where he was like, like he said, he got triggered, and then like afterwards he's like, oh yeah, I don't have a boyfriend anymore, I brought my work home with me. So like I like that aspect of like, you know, trying to be a gang member, but also trying to like fall in love.
And
So,
try to have a life outside of the gang, which this
Exactly.
show loves to punish people for.
yeah.
Hop way or die, homie.
For real.
Stuff with Young June this season. You know, him like Brandon mentioned, him becoming the leader of Hop Way, and then we get reintroduced to the old leader of the Hop Way, his father there, Father June. Did you think that stuff with him, because we get introduced, like Young June gets put into a internment camp, and he's going to be
a deportation center, which actually existed back in the 1800s after the Exclusion Act passed.
Yeah. He's gonna get shipped back to China, and then he runs into his father there, and then him and his father, you know, Assam works out a deal that gets him and his father out of prison there. Did you think the stuff with him and his, I mean, even though it was emotional, it just seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere, like his father is kind of struggling with dementia all of a sudden. It just felt like that just happened on the turn of a dime.
Well, in season 2, Father June kind of goes his separate way from the Tong. He like leaves San Francisco, and just thinking back on that, it's like, wow, especially because, you know, however many fights that Father June had been in, how long he served for the Tong, and seeing him in that internment camp, it made me think, oh, his dementia started showing itself earlier. That's why he's there.
See, I never picked up on that.
And wasn't he like in a war too? I forget. Like, I know he like mentioned that like before, like very sparingly. But I really enjoyed them bringing Father June back. He was one of my favorite characters in the first 2 seasons, and his relationship with Young June, and I like how they kind of like brought that back, even though like Young June kind of like, you know, put the rug on him.
Oh, it was a straight up coup.
Yeah, played him.
But like Nick, you had mentioned earlier how like people whose like ambition gets too much, like they gets knocked down a peg. And I liked how in that episode it was both Young June and Mai Ling, they both like were in like prison. Like they're both the leaders of like the Tongs were like nowhere to be seen and like at the lowest point. So I kind of enjoyed that. And I think bringing Father June to like kind of bring some more wisdom and like, you know, make Young June kind of like second guess or like have like another voice of reason like by his side was kind of like a smart decision.
Yeah, a voice of reason that he might actually listen to. Because Assam and Hong have been trying to, but Young June's gonna Young June.
He's a hothead. Yeah,
exactly.
And I agree with both of them because for me, and we talked a lot about emotion in this season. I think the scenes between Father June and Young June are some of the biggest emotional crutches throughout the whole series. No spoilers, but it's just because, like we said, Young June's a hothead and he's trying to deal with the responsibility of leading this Tong. That's what they call gangs, and trying to lead this Tong and trying to, he doesn't want to be his dad, but he does. And there's always that pressure when your dad is, the head of the house and you got to follow up. Everybody's looking at you as the head honcho. That is a lot of responsibility. And I think those scenes, them coming together was just, some of the most beautiful and most heartbreaking moments throughout the entire season.
And back to, great performances in the season. I think Jason Tobin, with the right campaign, he is giving some best supporting actor material.
1000%. Absolutely. Some of the most, he was great. Just so good.
Yeah, and I was a fan of the guy since I saw him in stuff like Better Luck Tomorrow. And I find glad that we're seeing him be able to like stretch himself dramatically.
Yeah. And speaking of the action, still great action in this series, right? Still one of the best action series.
Yes.
When they do really great choreography there, that we see with a lot anytime that happens. And when the show, because this also happened last season, I talked about it when we did a review of the first 2 seasons. When it kind of has that old school kind of Western, villain of the week type of aspect. There's there's that episode in this season where they go to like this German town, and they kind of fight the whole town and everything like that. Like that's really cool. And
that was dope.
That was really cool and that was really awesome. 3 dudes just taking on this whole town and everything like that. Like, that was awesome.
It's like if you thought the show was gonna like take a dip in quality or in production value since it's moving from Cinemax to HBO Max, No,
Wrong.
not at all.
Wrong.
Yeah, and shout out to Brett Chan, who is the show's main stunt coordinator, along with Johnny Yang and Jason Young, who are the assistant stunt coordinators. And they've actually won a couple of awards, stunt awards, through their work on this show.
As they should.
As they should.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's one of my favorite things about this show is that like in the middle of the season, they'll just go and do a whole Wild West homage.
Yes.
So for I forgot what it was first season. They just showed up at a saloon. Then the second season,
the first season they went to a saloon and they ran into another Chinese immigrant who was played by C.S. Lee, and he was the guy who had made it in America. He owned that whole.
That's
saloon.
right. Yes.
And in season 2, you had basically the Kumite in the desert in Mexico, which cameo by Michael Bisping, who got knocked the fuck out.
Yes.
Super quick.
So final thoughts, ratings, Nick, for Warrior season 3.
Me, I'm always astounded by how good this show still ends up being. Because when I first heard about it in quarantine, I just kind of cut it on as I thought, okay, this is going to probably be some pretty cool action stuff. Joe Taslim's in this show. I see Jason Tobin's in this. I haven't seen that dude since Better Luck Tomorrow. This will be fun. And it hooked me by like minute 5 when Assam just absolutely wrecks these 3 racist shipyard workers.
Best thesis statement for a show ever.
It's like, oh, you're that kind of show. And just continuing on to its 3rd season, it's nice when you get a show like this whose elevator pitch is that it's just this really fun action show where it was based on a concept and treatment by Bruce Lee. Shannon Lee, his daughter, brought it to Cinemax along with Justin Lin and Jonathan Tropper, who was the showrunner on Banshee. And seeing how the show has managed to grow throughout its 3-season run and changing an entire network, seeing the action set piece and not only grow, add new different styles, but always keeping an emphasis on character. It's like characters all have their own distinct fighting style. It's like Assam is more that Bruce Lee style. Young June, it's scrappier, it's unrefined. He likes throwing his weapons. Even a guy like Leary, who is the ostensibly like traditional Irish bare knuckle boxer, he's not exactly an orthodox fighter either. And all of them are very fun to watch. And you also get these incredible emotional payoffs through every single one of these characters. And the show, I think it can't be stated enough, but I think this show has done a lot for the Asian American community, because for a long time in Hollywood, and I've talked about this a lot with my reviews for stuff like Crazy Rich Asians and even Shortcomings, for a long time, Asian men weren't seen as sexy. There was like a stigma with them that they were like desexualized. There was this just play them as just a caricature, just these sexless and emotionless robots. But Asian women fetishize them all fucking day. And this show, I think it's done so much for kind of erasing that stigma, and that all of the male characters on the show, they are sexy and sexual. It's like you see them take their shirts off and they're all ripped as hell. You see the women here, they're all stunning and they have incredible character depth. It's like one of my hesitancies with the show was Olivia Chang's character, Ah Toy, and how when I first saw the show, it's like, oh, you're just playing a dragon lady, and that very, very harmful stereotype. But the longer the show goes on, the more complex her character gets, and the more you start to like and sympathize with that toy. And I love how the show continues to grow and change and keeps adding new emotional payoffs. And by the time it gets to this 3rd season finale, it's not a happy ending. It's basically the kind of ethos of the show is take a lot of our characters and bring them back to their lowest point possible. And it was stunning. It was beautiful. And I want my 4th season now, damn it. But for me, I did have issues with some of the story choices and some of the pacing of the season. I thought that I wish we got to spend more time with Hong and Chen Tang's, who plays him, and his relationship outside of the Tong. I thought that that some of the a lot of the other antagonists, but I think something that we didn't talk about was Adam Rayner, who plays Douglas Strickland on the show, who kind of takes Leary under his wing. I thought you could have done a lot more with him, but I really dug Rayner's performance, even as scenery chewing as it was. But besides those like mild complaints, I give this show an absolute peak. I loved it.
Nice.
Amen.
Jamarco.
Yes, I'd have to agree. Please stream the show. Go stream it right now. If you are an action junkie like myself, Brandon, Nick, and John Wick 4 and Extraction 2 wasn't enough for you this year and just need something to hold you over, please go watch this show. I can't say enough about the performances. Andrew Koji, Jason Tobin, Olivia Chang. Just they should be up for Emmys and Golden Globes. And if not, I will write a campaign myself. Yes, I do agree. Like with every TV show, there's always going to be plot lines you don't really like, and there's always going to be certain characters. But come for the action scene, stay for the heart, because most like all of this action, all of these great kick-ass fight scenes wouldn't work if you didn't care about these characters. And I fell in love with all the characters, even the racist white ones. There's still something to hold on to. But no, I'm still like, man, Larry, you're a piece of shit, but man.
You're a piece of shit, but damn, stop making me like you.
Man, you can fight and you can talk your shit. But yeah, it's just it's there's nothing else quite like it on TV right now. I can't think of a lot of any other great action shows on TV that are doing it at this level with this amount of love for the culture, for this choreography. If you're a Bruce Lee fan, there are plenty of Easter eggs for you. I can't say enough great things about the show. I want a 4th, 5th, 6th season and a movie. So I'm all for it. Please go stream it.
All right. Brandon.
Yeah, I can't talk about this show enough. It's so good. I'm probably gonna rewatch it like before the year is out.
Oh yeah.
I just I find myself just like watching like some fight scenes like whenever like I have nothing else to watch. So like yeah, I second everything like these guys have said. It's one of the best shows on HBO right now. If you thought they didn't have anything after Succession and Barry ended, you're wrong. They've got this and it's spectacular. You can like feel the love of like fighting or like just like any like action cinema like in the last like 50 years. And of course, like Marco said, like there's fantastic like homages to like Bruce Lee. Shannon Lee, his daughter, is like a producer on the show. She even had a cameo in the Western episode.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was the woman whose son got killed. But yeah, it's a fantastic show. This season is probably, like I said, the most emotionally charged, and that's probably why I connected with it like so much. The finale left me so angry, but so excited for like what's possible to come next. Because like Nick said, like they brought so many characters like back down to their lowest. So I want to see like what happens now. Like, how do these characters move forward? How do they get back to where they were, or do they want to get back to where they were? So yeah, I think this is fantastic. Everybody who works on the show, I can't get enough of them. I initially really wanted to watch this because I was like, I got to see Andrew Koji in something that's not Snake Eyes.
That was my reason too.
And
who is this guy?
And because Joe Taslim, I absolutely loved him in The Night Comes for Us.
Oh
yeah,
I was
like, that one of my favorites.
Watch that movie, y'all. Please watch that movie.
But yeah, like those two dudes are probably some of the best like action performers like working today. And I hope they just get nothing but more roles. Like give them blank checks, honestly. But yeah, this is some cinema right here.
Wow. So yeah, I didn't think this season was as strong as other seasons, but I still thought it was pretty decent. I still had a good time watching it, and where it leaves off in the conclusion does make me excited, and I do want to see a season 4 from just this the season finale here. Still really great, amazing action scenes. Andrew Koji, like Nick has mentioned, is very charismatic and is a great lead to watch. And also is really great in the fight scenes. I just feel like there is the pacing is kind of not as strong as it's been in other seasons. So many other, all the subplots are kind of going on here this season, kind of make it kind of, I think, feel a little stuffed. Yeah, so I think that was kind of some of the issues I had with this season. But still pretty decent. And for that, I would kind of give it a lowish tune in, kind of stream it territory there for a Warrior season 3. But hey, it's on HBO Max, or whatever you want to call it. It's on there, on that platform that you can watch it all 3 seasons right now. And I think you'll, enjoy it. It's got, hey, sex, violence, all that good stuff in there. Some good
Drugs.
acting and
Sex,
Knives.
drugs, great acting, beautiful Asian women, incredibly sexy Asian men. I mean,
Come on.
what more could you want?
Yeah.
You know what I
All
said
in.
as soon as I finished watching the show? Andrew Kochi, 007.
Please.
He's
I can see
British.
Oh yeah, he's pretty.
Let's,
Yeah,
let's
it's
get it
British.
going.
So yeah, that was Warrior season 3. So Nick gave it a peak. Jamarco gave it a stream it, and Brandon gave it a This Is Cinema there for Warrior season 3.